you realize it's so much work to go to the barn, especially like when your babies aren't sleeping or if they have colic or they're sick and you are just exhausted. And maybe your spouse is like, I really don't want you to go tonight. And you're like, well, I need to. And then you go and you feel so much better.
Totally.
But it's like we ride because it's who we are. We can't just stop because we had kids.
He is a stay-at-home mom to two little boys, ages 7 and 4. She's also known as Stirrups and Sippycups on Instagram, and she has done lots of riding disciplines, including hunters and jumpers, dressage, and Western horsemanship. This is a particularly good interview just because it really showcases some of the real ups and downs of trying to juggle parenting and horses. As you can see from my face in this interview, I am very tired when we're doing this, and Laura is at home with a sick child this day, so we were both a little bit distracted, but I think there's some really great nuggets in here, so I am sorry for the moments of kind of distraction and kind of some funky editing that I did to kind of help preserve some of our privacy through some of this, but I think there are still some really great moments.
So, hi, Laura.
Hello.
Good morning. Thank you so
Morning.
much for agreeing to meet with me this morning. I'm really excited to hear about your stories.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, so I kind of like to just jump right into these things. I'm not big on small talk. So if you could maybe start by kind of telling us a little bit about kind of your background pre-kids, like um, were you, riding, what your involvement with horses looked like, and then if you kind of had um, planned on having kids, and if you kind of had an idea of how you were going to mesh horses and kids before that actually happened.
So I grew up riding horses. Well, I started when I was 10, and I was pretty much always obsessed with horses. And I like to say that I'm still like the same 10-year-old horse crazy girl who like everything about horses and still, they're still like a huge part of my life. It's like horses and my kids. And I did not plan on having kids until one day I was 32 and I just like had to have a kid like that day. It was just like a switch flipped and I was like, okay, we're going to have a kid. But before I got pregnant, I was the type that was at the barn 7 days a week. I love to do lessons, clinics, showing, all that kind of thing. And I thought naively that it would be exactly the same after I had a kid. I didn't think about the fact that like someone had to be with the kid while I was at the barn. So that
I
kind of
did the
came,
same thing.
yeah, that came as a shock to me because I, especially back then, like social media wasn't what it is now. And I knew no one who had kids and horses. No one. So I thought like, yeah, I'll just keep going like usual. It'll be great. That
And
did
were
not.
you like showing at the time or
Mhm. My mare was 5 and we were showing schooling, training for second level. And I had fully intended on just to keep going on with the showing and the lessons. And then um, I didn't handle pregnancy well. Like my body didn't handle it well. Like I had a lot of round ligament pain. So, and also just in general, like even before I got big, it's like my ligaments were too loose and I had a really
Mhm.
hard time like just balancing on a horse. So I'm so jealous of those people who were able to ride their whole way through because even if I could get on the horse, I couldn't ride well because I was like
Mhm.
just all over the place.
I was surprised by, I don't know if you had this experience, but my breeches were like pinching the round ligaments, it felt like I couldn't find comfortable pants for like the whole like first and second trimesters, like just obviously the high-waisted ones didn't fit, but then the low-waisted ones I thought would be fine, but like that pressure right there was so uncomfortable on the round ligaments.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just rode in leggings.
Yeah.
Like maternity leggings because I think now there's a couple brands of maternity breeches, but there definitely were not then.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a shock.
Yeah. Oh, and then like my boots didn't fit pretty early on. So
Yeah,
I stopped
yeah.
riding at 5 months with my first one and 4 months with my second one. So my mare was like, so I went to the barn 7 days a week. I used to go, I worked 9 to 5. So I would get up, I'd go to work, and then I would drive straight from work to the barn. So I would change like either in the bathroom or in my car. And then I would walk around with like breeches and high heels on. And so my mare was used to be like she is an Arab cross, so she's used to being like she's a very people oriented horse, and she loved the attention. She thrived on it. She was used to being messed with every single day. So through my first pregnancy, my sweet husband would go out and help me groom her, and for exercise, he would take her on walks, like hiking with her,
Wow,
basically.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really sweet. And then I didn't get up to the barn for over 2 weeks after I had my first son because I had a C-section, and it just recovery was really hard, and like our whole world was blown because it was like, oh my God, now we have a baby to take care of. And he had colic, so he cried all the time. And Savvy was so mad. It was a really hard transition for her to go from being like so much attention to basically no attention overnight.
Mm.
And it took me 6 months with the first one to really get in the saddle, but that's just because my first baby was so hard.
Mm.
And we just weren't really prepared for it. Like I breastfed and he wouldn't take a bottle. So I had to wait for till he was old enough for me to be gone for a little bit of time
Mhm.
before I could leave. And then he would just cry the whole time. So I think that
Oh,
was a huge shock for me because there was
yeah.
no way at all to keep riding every day. Kaden, can you please go in the other room? Or if you're in here, you can just be quiet. He's like punching this like blow up punching thing and kicking stuff
Oh.
around. But my second one, I would have started riding earlier, but it was COVID, so
Mhm.
I couldn't even go to the barn for a long time.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she did handle the second one better. It's like she knew. She was like,
Okay.
oh, okay, this is what we do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you found this, but my horse definitely could tell when I was pregnant.
Some of them, I have a couple horses, and some of them I felt like really could. And
Yeah.
one actually got kind of like, I don't know if I would say jealous, because I don't know if horses necessarily feel jealousy the way that we do, but definitely got like, um, I don't know, kind of like he was never really like a biter or anything, but would kind of get mouthy and yeah, super weird. And then the mares, it seemed like, were a little bit more like gentle and I don't know, sort of, yeah, interesting how that
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
Like as soon as I got pregnant, within 2 weeks, my mare like would not go very forward. She's
Wow.
like, no, we're going slow.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it was really sweet. Yeah, she loved the kids.
Once you had your first baby, then um, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but you then had to, really shift your relationship with your horse at that point. Did you continue showing at that point, or did you kind of reevaluate your?
No, we didn't show anymore after that. Mostly because like I guess because pregnancy, like I felt like pregnancy changed my body so much. And we also moved at the
Mhm.
same time. So we moved trainers. We just kind of had, I felt like we had to start over.
Mhm.
Like it took me a really long time to get my seat back. And in that time, of course, horses, they're every time you ride them, you're training with them. So she's like, now I suck. She's like, now I don't listen to your leg and I don't know how to go around anymore and I don't know how to go forward. So we had to like kind of start all over with that. And then she pulled a suspensory
Oh
when
wow.
we were out walking in that, like just on a hack, she stepped in a hole and pulled a suspensory in her front leg. So we did all the rehab from that and she came back better than ever. And then I got pregnant
Wow.
With a very happy surprise. I was super happy to get pregnant again, but like the timing just kind of never worked out.
Mhm.
And then when I came, like, was trying to bring her back after I had my second, she just kind of felt really off,
Mm.
and she was diagnosed with ESLD.
Oh, wow.
So she's retired now.
Okay. And then you then said you were leasing another horse for a little
Yeah.
while, and
So I've been riding a lot, actually. Surprisingly, I didn't think I would be able to ride so much without having a horse, but it kind of got to the point where I had to be like, no, I need a break. It's the hard, like, there was a lot of horses to ride, but most of them were just like friends' horses that have been sitting out in the field, so not really like dressage horses. So
okay.
I'd love to get back in the show ring. Now I'm finally like taking regular lessons again, which is awesome. But I think the combination of like being a new parent and having my own personal horse be retired has sort of delayed things a bit.
Mhm. Yeah, that's like a doozy of a combo, I feel like, you
Mhm.
know, I always think about we're kind of it's such a challenging sport because it's such a team sport between horse and rider, but we
Mhm.
can't control. There's so many variables, right? Like, if you like play tennis, you can kind of like talk to your tennis partner and make sure they're on the same page as you. And then like if they decide not to come, you just find a new tennis partner. But with
Right.
horses, it's like we're
It's much
so
like the
dependent
same.
on this other teammate that like we can't talk to really, and we can't
Yeah.
control that variable. So then what was the idea behind Stirrups and Sippy Cups? When did that?
Well, I really love sharing the horses aspect of it. Like I like taking pictures and I like taking videos and doing editing. And I also just was really into, when my kids were little, I really got into like the Montessori kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so I love just to take pictures and like share ideas with them, like the kind of stuff I was doing with them. It's kind of evolved more now that they're not really little. Like they don't sit still for pictures anymore. And so it's not so much about kids anymore as it is just horses at this point.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. And did your kids ever really get into riding, or are they more into other things?
No, my youngest has always been afraid of horses ever since he was a baby, and he never really got over it. I think they're still so little, they
Mm.
might, but like the trainer I'm working with now, she doesn't even start teaching lessons to kids until they're 8.
Okay.
So we'll see. I think the youngest likes them. But the barn where I was leasing Olive, they had chickens and the rooster kept attacking him. So now he's afraid to go to the barn.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
It's like they get horse kids get exposed to everything.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and then how about the other side? Like, did your horses, did they seem to like the I think, babies, toddlers, kids, did they seem to have um, an interest in your kids as they were kind of
Oh
growing
yes,
up, or?
Savvy for sure loved my kids. I don't know if you believe in like animal communicators, but we had one out when Colton was a baby, my oldest, and she said that he was her baby and
Oh,
she was going to teach him how to ride.
oh,
And she really is like so gentle. Even though like she's retired now, we went out, pulled her out of the field, which she lives outside. She had not been sat on in almost a year, and I threw my kids up on her, and she just walks so slowly.
wow.
She is just one of those horses that is just like the perfect kids horse. So I really do think that she would have been a great teacher for little kids because she's super
Yeah.
tolerant in them. But yeah, no, she loved the kid. When Caden was just a couple years old, he loved to lead her. So he would only hold the very end of the lead rope, and she would just like let him walk her slowly around the barn,
Wow.
with her head down, super slow. She is like super tolerant.
That's always so amazing to me, like when horses kind of pick up on who they're interacting with and
Hmm.
seem to really take care of certain,
Yeah.
people or riders or.
Yeah. Caden, again, when he was like a year or two, we put him up on her and he was like holding on to like the fly spray
Uh-huh.
because he thought that was really cool. So we wanted to hold
Uh-huh.
it. But when he got up there, he dropped it and it fell like right underneath her back legs. And she didn't even bat an eye.
Wow.
Yeah, she's the kind who would just like be so good for babies. And she actually did pony camp at her old farm when she was still sound
Okay.
beginners.
That's so special because you said she was 5 when all this started, right? So as a young
Yeah.
horse or younger horse to be kind of
Oh,
already that
mhm.
like sensitive and attuned and
Especially an Arab.
yeah, wow. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. She had a one of a kind personality for sure. Now Olive is terrified of kids.
Okay.
Yeah. She's I have a picture, it cracks me up because it's like my two boys in the aisleway and Olive, and she's like as far away from them as she can, and her eyes are huge.
Amazing.
It really is. She's like, children are not right.
She knows her boundaries.
Yeah, she's like, they're tiny, loud, and fast. No thanks.
Mm-mm, yeah. Yeah, so if you had any kind of like advice or words of wisdom for people that were trying to navigate the kind of horse baby balance or horse pregnancy balance, what would you say to those people?
I just have grace with yourself and don't hold yourself to like as higher standards as you did before you had kids. Like, especially when you're pregnant and they're in that infant, that first year is so hard. And it gets so much easier. After the first year, it's like life comes back again, things go back to normal. The kid is so much easier. And you can be hard on yourself during that time and like try and push yourself to be at the same level you were at before, but just give yourself grace because it does get easier. It is way hard during pregnancy in that first year to navigate everything. I mean, your body changes. They say that it takes a full 2 years for your body to go back to normal after having a kid. So your body is not even physically the same. And riding is such a demanding sport. And then you're also trying to navigate, like, I personally deal with a lot of guilt for spending time away from the family to go to the barn. So for me, it was a challenge to sort of figure out the timing of how much time I'm going to spend at the barn. And also, I think it's really important to talk to your partner about your expectations about how much you want to ride, how much time you want to spend at the barn, and what that looks like for your family life. Like, are they truly okay, watching the kids watching, but
Hmm.
it's never fun being alone with a baby. At least I don't think so. I was a stay-at-home mom, so maybe it was different for me because I was alone with them all the time. But my husband, and he's super supportive, but it still was hard for him because he would get off work and I'd be running out the door to get to the barn so that I could get back in time for dinner and bedtime. And he felt like he never really got a break.
Hmm.
So I think it's important to talk to your partner and just make sure that you're both clear on the guidelines of what that looks like and when do they get their special time to sort of relax and do something that they also enjoy.
Yeah, those are all just a lot of really great points and important things and things that I know I'm definitely struggling to navigate. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, I like it's hard to like you talked about kind of the guilt of leaving your kids for
Mhm.
the barn. Um, but at least I feel like I can be more present if I do have that time to go do my own thing, than when I am at home. I can be a little bit more patient and a little bit more
Mhm.
gentle. But yeah, definitely like I think about, like our partners don't sign up for this. They don't know
No.
when they get into a relationship with a horse girl that it's really a lifelong commitment and,
Mhm.
passion, and that it's not something that we can necessarily just kind of walk away from. And
No.
um,
And I
yeah,
think that really becomes really evident when you become a new mom because it would be easier just to stay home most of the time.
Mhm.
It's so much work you realize it's so much work to go to the barn, especially like when your babies aren't sleeping or if they have colic or they're sick and you are just exhausted. And maybe your spouse is like, I really don't want you to go tonight. And you're like, well, I need to. And then you go and you feel so much better.
Totally.
But it's like we ride because it's who we are. We can't just stop because we had kids.
If you've watched this far, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please go find Laura on Instagram at Stirrups and Sippycups, and find me on Instagram at Ruby Das Equine and Mama in the Saddle. And then also make sure to follow and subscribe so that you can see more of these interviews. We have so many more in the pipeline and some really great content coming up, so make sure to stay tuned.